Trump's new press secretary humiliates this woke reporter with the brutal facts about illegal immigration.
Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have tried to point at the worst first. They all have a criminal record.
And welcome to the briefing
If they
room.
broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yeah, Peter.
Caroline, I can ask you very quickly, just following up on the question on immigration first. President Trump, during the course of the campaign in 2024, said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal?
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal, and so therefore you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood. Then let me ask you a separate question about the confusion that still exists across the country right now as it relates to the freeze or the pause as it's described. President Trump, of course, ran one of the key policy items was that he was going to lower prices, lower the cost of everything from groceries, as he often said. But in many of the cases, it would seem that some of these moves could raise prices for real Americans on everything from low-income heating, that program, child care programs. Will nothing that the president's doing here in terms of the freeze in these programs raise prices on ordinary Americans?
What particular actions are you referring to that would?
I'm referring to LHEAP right now. That's the low-income heating program, for example. We can talk about, there's no clarity, so I could refer to a lot of them. We don't know what they are specifically. Can you tell us that LHEAP is not one of those affected?
So you're asking a hypothetical based on programs that you can't even identify.
No, I just identified.
What I can tell you
just
is that
clear, since you guys haven't identified, let's do it together just for Americans at home. Medicaid, is that affected?
I gave you a list of examples: Social Security, Medicare, welfare benefits, food stamps that will not be impacted by this federal pause. I can get you the full list after this briefing from the Office of Management and Budget. But I do want to address the cost cutting because that's certainly very important and cutting the cost of living in this country. President Trump has taken historic action over the past week to do that. He actually signed a memorandum to deliver emergency price relief for American families, which took a number of actions. I can walk you through those. He also repealed many onerous Biden administration regulations. We know over the past 4 years, American households has been essentially taxed $55,000 in regulations from the previous administration. President Trump, with the swipe of his pen, rescinded those, which will ultimately put more money back in the pockets of the American people. So deregulation is a big deal. And then when it comes to energy, I mean, the president signed an executive order to declare a national energy emergency here at home, which is going to make America energy dominant. We know that energy is one of the #1 drivers of inflation, and so that's why the president wants to increase our energy supply to bring down costs for Americans. The Trump energy boom is incoming, and Americans can expect that.
Please share that. Thank you.
Caroline, I think some of the confusion I think may be here with this pause on federal funding. You've made it clear you're not stopping funds that go directly to individuals, but there certainly are lots of organizations that receive funding and then may pass along a benefit. Meals on Wheels, for one. They provide meals for over 2.2 million seniors. What is the president's message to Americans out there, many of whom supported him and voted for him, who are concerned that this is going to impact them directly, even if, as you said, the funding isn't coming directly to their wallet?
I have now been asked and answered this question 4 times. To individuals at home who receive direct assistance from the federal government, you will not be impacted by this federal freeze. In fact, OMB just sent out a memo to Capitol Hill with Q&A to clarify some of the questions and the answers that all of you are asking me right now. Again, direct assistance will not be impacted. I've been asked and answered about this OMB memo. There's many other topics of the day. Jackie Heinrich.
Under Joe Biden, the amount of inflation that we had was never before seen in this country. The cost of everything was exponentially rising, but it all starts at the gas pump. It all starts at the energy. It's a trickle-down effect. The costlier that our energy is, the more expensive every single thing in your day-to-day life will be. But when it comes back to immigration, if you are an illegal immigrant, you broke the law in and of itself. Yes, first priority should be those who are actively committing crimes like murder, drug dealing, whatever. Yes, they should be the first ones gone. But if you just so happen to raid an apartment building and you see 100 illegal immigrants and 70 of them are criminals, you're not just going to say, okay, the 30, we'll come back and get you later. You're going to grab all 100 because technically they are all criminals, they broke the law, and Donald Trump promised the greatest mass deportation event in American history, and that's what the voters want. That is what we voted for, and he is only following through on his campaign promises. The thing is, you can't listen to the Democrats' emotional play. They're going to say, these are human beings, they belong to be here just like me and you. That's incorrect. If you are a documented citizen, you have precedent over those who just walked in through the southern border. Because if we don't have strong nations, we don't have a country. We need to have a safe, secure, more prosperous nation. American citizens should not have to pay more to accommodate for these illegal immigrants. It's simply not fair.
Assistance, Caroline. If it's going to another organization and then trickling down.
Direct assistance that is in the hands of the American people will not be impacted. Again, as I said to Peter, we will continue to provide that list as it comes to fruition. But OMB right now is focused on analyzing the federal government's spending, which is exactly what the American people elected President Trump to do.
And one question on immigration, Caroline, on immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have to point at the worst first. They all have a criminal record?
And welcome to the briefing
If they
room.
broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yes.
Thank you. On stripping security details for figures like John Bolton, Pompeo, Brian Hook, Senator Tom Cotton said that he's seen the intelligence and the threat from Iran is real for anyone who played a role in the Soleimani strike. He voiced concern it wouldn't just impact those individuals, but potentially their family, innocent bystanders, friends, anyone who's near them when they're out in public. Is the president open to reconsidering his decision?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday, and he was firm in his decision despite some of the comments that you had referenced, and he's made it very clear that he does not believe American taxpayers should fund security details for individuals who have served in the government for the rest of their lives, and there's nothing stopping these individuals that you mentioned from obtaining private security. That's where the president stands on it. I have no updates on that.
Is there any concern that this decision might jeopardize the administration's ability to hire the best advisors for these kinds of positions in the future?
No, in fact, I've talked to the Presidential Personnel Office, who has told me directly that there is such an influx of resumes for this administration that it's incredibly overwhelming. There is no lack of talent for the Trump administration.
One, on the freeze in federal funding, who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And on what happened on Friday night, the administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was resting
So
on.
you're confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, those prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed?
We will win in court,
And
yes.
did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House. So
it did
yes.
come from him.
Yes, it came from this
Caroline?
Sure.
Thank you. Congrats on your first day behind the podium.
Thank you.
President Trump ended funding for UNRWA and also designated the Houthis a foreign terrorist organization.
That's right.
Both were decisions that the previous administration had reversed. So here's my question. Will there be an investigation into who gave the previous administration this terrible advice?
Well, that's a very good point. I haven't heard discussions about such an investigation, but it wouldn't be a bad idea considering that the Houthis certainly are terrorists. They have launched attacks on U.S. naval ships across this world, and so I think it was a very wise move by this administration to redesignate them as a terrorist group, because they are, and I think it was a foolish decision by the previous administration to do so. As for an investigation, I'm not sure about that, but it's not a bad idea.
I'll tell you what, I don't think there has been a more stark contrast from one administration to the next. Every single thing that Joe Biden did or touched was almost a complete opposite thing that Donald Trump would have done. It doesn't matter if we're talking about the economy, foreign policy, the southern border, it doesn't matter. One person is purely working for America and wants to ensure security, prosperity, and for the country to be thriving, whereas the other person is controlled by globalists and just signed whatever papers were put onto his desk. He didn't know what day it was. He didn't know what the heck was going on. If you have not realized yet, it is about to be abundantly clear. The adults are back in charge now. America is done being the laughingstock of the world. If you try and rip us off, you try and screw us over in any trade deals, that's not going to fly. We're going to fix that, and we're going to fix that immediately. And no more foreign wars are going to be started, because you know one thing's for sure. With Donald Trump at the helm, you don't know what this man's gonna do. These other foreign countries and gangs and organizations are terrified of Donald Trump. In fact, he just labeled the MS-13 gang as a terrorist organization, which means that he's gonna be able to use drone strikes on them, which goes to show Donald Trump, you don't want to piss him off. You don't want to try and screw over America underneath his watch, because he's got one interest and one interest in mind, and that is to ensure your best life. It is so refreshing to not have to watch the news every single day, because you know Trump's in charge. You know he's going to be looking out for you. Whereas whenever I turned on the TV and saw Joe Biden, which happened only like 3 times in his whole administration, you just knew it was disaster after disaster. It would just get you upset. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. What has been your favorite accomplishment so far that Trump has achieved in this second term? Let me know. I'd love to hear that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash on like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.